and not on qualification of birth. It is very important. As per Bhagavad Gita, as per the Vedic process, it is the quality, the activity, and not by birth. Birth is an extraneous consideration. It is not the main feature of the order and division. In the Bhagavad Gita 18:41 to 44, the qualification of the Brahmanas, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudras are specifically mentioned. And it is understood that all such qualifications are needed before one can be designated as belonging to a particular group. Lord Vishnu is always mentioned in the Puranas, in all Vedic scriptures. Sometimes the living entities are also mentioned as Puranas, as Purushas. Sorry. Lord Vishnu is always mentioned as the Purusha in all Vedic scriptures. Sometimes the living entities are also mentioned as Purushas, although they are essentially Purusha Shakti, Para Shakti or Para Prakriti. The superior energy of the Purusha, illusioned by the external potency of the Purusha, the Lord. The living entities falsely thinks of themselves as the Purusha, although they are actually have no qualifications. The Lord has the power to protect. Of the three deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwar, the first has the power to create, the second has the power to protect, and the third has the power to destroy. The word Purusha is significant in this verse because the Kshatriyas are expected to represent the Purusha Lord in giving protection to the people. The word Purusha is significant in this verse because the Kshatriyas are expected to represent the Purusha Lord in giving protection to the Prajas, or all those who are born on the land or in water. Protection is therefore meant for both men and women. In modern society, the Prajas are not protected from the hands of thieves and miscreants. The modern democratic state, which has no Kshatriya, is the government of the Vaishyas and Shudras and not of the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas as formulated. Maharaj Yudhishthira and his grandson Maharaj Parikshit were typical Kshatriyas, for they gave protection to all men and animals. When the personification of Kali attempted to kill a cow, Maharaj Parikshit at once prepared himself to kill the miscreants. And the personification of Kali was banished from his kingdom. That is a sign of the Purusha or representative of Lord Vishnu. According to Vedic civilization, a qualified Kshatriya monarch is given the respect of the Lord because he presents the Lord by giving protection to the Prajas. Modern elected presidents cannot even give protection from theft cases, and therefore one has to take protection from the insurance company. That problem of modern global society are due to the lack of qualified Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and the over influence of the Vaishyas and Shudras due to the so-called general franchise. Visho avartante, Visho avartanta tasyorava lokavritti kare vipo Vaishyasta dubhavatam nirnamya samavartaye. Everyone's means of livelihood, namely production of grains and the distribution to the prajas, was generated from the eyes of the Lord's judgment. The mercantile men who take charge of some activities are called Vaishyas. So from the mouth came the Brahmanas, from the arms came the Kshatriya, and now from the thigh it has been said that the Vaishyas. the mercantile class eliminated. Human society's means of living is clearly mentioned here as Visha or agriculture and the business of distributing agricultural products, which involves transport, banking, etc. Industry is an artificial means of livelihood, and large-scale industry especially is the source of all the problems in society. In the Bhagavad Gita also, the duties of the Vaishyas who are engaged in the Vija are stated as cow protection, agriculture, and business. We had already discussed that the human being can safely depend on the cow and agricultural land for his livelihood. Prabhupada always wanted this. Simple living and high thinking. Prabhupada is saying we have already discussed that the human being can safely depend on the cow and the agricultural land for his livelihood. Nothing else is required. If you have some land and one cow. The exchange of produce by banking and transportation is a branch of this type of living. The Vaishyas are divided into many subsections. Some of them are called Kshetri or landowners, and some are called Karshana or land tillers, and some of them are called Tilavanik or grain raisers, and some are called the Gandhavanik or merchant in spices, and some are called Swarnamanik, Swarnavanik, a merchant in gold and banking. The Brahmanas are the teachers and spiritual masters. The Kshatriyas protect the citizens from the hand of thief and miscreant, and the Vaishyas are in charge of production and distribution. The Shudra, the intelligent class, the unintelligent class of men, who cannot work independently by performing any of the above mentioned activities, are meant to earn their livelihood by serving the three higher classes. Formerly, the Brahmanas were given all the necessities of life by the Kshatriyas. One second. Formerly, the Brahmanas were given all the necessities of life by the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas because they had no time to spend making a living. The Kshatriyas would collect taxes from the Vaishyas and Shudras, but the Brahmanas were exempt from paying income tax or property tax. That system of human society was so nice that there was no political, social, or economic upheaval. The different caste or varnas classifications are therefore essential for maintaining a peaceful human society. So as Krishna has spoken in Bhagavad Gita, that he has classified the society based on one's quality and activity, and how each class was responsible for important function is being mentioned, and how the harmony was there. There was complete harmony. Padabhyam Bhagavato Jajme Sushrusa Dharma Siddhaye Tasyam Jata Pura Shudro Yadvritya Tushyate Hari. So we have heard the mouth, which is the Brahmana, the arm, which is the Kshatriyas, and the thighs, which are the Vaishyas, and now the legs. Thereafter, service was manifested from the legs of the personality of Godhead for the sake of perfecting the religious function. Situated on the legs are the Shudras who satisfy the Lord by service. Service is the constitutional occupation of all living entities. The living entities are meant to render service to the Lord, and they can attain religious perfection by this service attitude. One cannot attain religious perfection simply by speculating to obtain theoretical knowledge. The Jnani division of spiritualists go on speculating only to distinguish the soul from matter. But they have no information of the activities of the soul after being liberated by knowledge. It is said that the persons who only engage in mental speculation to know things as they are and who do not engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord are simply wasting their time. What are such people called? Who engage in mental speculation to know things as they are and do not engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. And yet Prabhupada is saying that they are simply wasting their time. What are such persons called? What is this class of person? Yes, Ravindra Prabhu?
Which they are impersonalist.
Yes, they are Mayavadi or impersonalists. It is clearly said here that the principle of service was generated from the legs of the Lord for the sake of perfecting the religious process. But this transcendental service is different from the idea of service in the material world. In the material world, no one wants to be the servant. Everyone wants to become the master because false mastership is the basic disease of the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul in the material world wants to lord it over others. Illusioned by the external energy of the Lord, he is forced to become servant of the material world. That is the real position of the conditioned soul. The last snare of the illusionary external energy is the conception of becoming one with the Lord. Due to thought. And due to this conception, the illusion soul remains in the bondage of the material energy, always thinking himself, I lubricate so and as good as Nara. It is actually better to be a Shudra than to be a Brahmana and not develop the service of the people. It is actually better to be a Shudra than to be a Brahmana and not develop the service of the people. Because that attitude alone satisfies the Lord. Every living being, even if he be a Brahmana by qualification, must take to the transcendental service of the Lord. Both the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam confirm that this service attitude is the perfection of the living entity. A Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra can perfect the occupational duties only by rendering service. Only by rendering service unto the Lord. A Brahmana is supposed to know this fact due to his perfection in Vedic wisdom. The other sections are supposed to follow the direction of the Brahmana or Vaishnava. One who is a Brahmana by qualification and a Vaishnava by action. This will make the entire society perfect in regard to the order of its social construction. A disordered society cannot satisfy either the members of the society or the law. Even if one is not a perfect Brahmana, even if one is not a perfect Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, but takes to the service of the law, not caring for the perfection of the social position. He becomes perfectly human being, fulfilled by developing the attitude of service and to the supreme law. So in this world, all the four categories of varnas have been discussed. एते वर्णा स्वधर्मेण यजति स्वगुरु हरे श्रद्धयात्मा विशुद्धयार्थम यज्जाता सवृत्तिति. All these different social divisions, along with their occupational duties and living conditions, are born from the Supreme Personality of God. Thus, for unconditional life, thus for the unconditional life and self-realization, one has to worship the Supreme Lord under the direction of the spiritual master. Since they are born from the different parts of the body, Supreme Lord in his gigantic form, all living entities in all parts of the entire universe are supposed to be eternal servitors of the Supreme Body. All the parts of our own body, such as the mouth, hand, eyes, and legs, are meant to render service to the whole. That is their constitutional position. In subhuman life, the living entities are not conscious of this constitutional position. But in the human form of life, they are supposed to know. But in the human form of life, they are supposed to know this through the system of the Varnas, the social order, as above mentioned. The Brahmanas is the spiritual master of all the orders of society. And thus, Brahmanical culture, culminating in the transcendental service of the Lord, is the basic principle for purifying the soul. In the conditioned life, the soul is under the impression that he can become the Lord of the universe. And the last point of this misconception is to think oneself is supreme. The foolish conditioned soul does not take into account that the Supreme cannot be conditioned by Maya or illusion. If the Supreme were to become conditioned by illusion, where would be his supremacy? Simple question. In that case, Maya or illusion would be the Supreme. Therefore, because the living entities are conditioned, they cannot be supreme. The actual position of the conditioned soul is explained in this verse. All the conditioned souls are impure due to contact with material energy in the three modes of nature. Therefore, it is necessary that they purify themselves under the guidance of a bona fide teacher master, who, as we have discussed above, must be not only a Brahmana by qualification, but also a Vaishnava. The only self-purifying process mentioned herein is to worship the Lord by the recognized method under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. That is the natural way of purification, and no other method is recommended as bona fide. The other methods of purification may be helpful to come to this stage of life, but ultimately one has to come to this last point before he attains the actual perfection. The Bhagavad Gita 7:19 confirms this truth as follows. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudevam sarvamati samahatma sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrender unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very good. So I'll stop here. Only few verses are left that we'll try to cover tomorrow. So today primarily we spoke about the four varnas, from which part of the Virat root they manifest and what is their natural function. In any case, summing up, the natural function of the living entity in all the varnas is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. And this is the most potent purifying process. Hare Krishna. If you have any question or doubt, please ask.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Ravindra.
Prabhuji, subhuman life, the living entities. Subhuman life मतलब ये animal life या
Yes. Which verse?
verse number 34.
Verse number 30.
Purport Prabhuji.
Which paragraph? Huh?
Fifth line Prabhuji in 4 or 5th line.
First paragraph.
First paragraph.
Hmm?
Prabhuji in purport, first paragraph.
Since they are born from different parts. Yeah, I'm reading. Okay. That is their constitution. See, all the parts of our body, such as the mouth, hand, thighs, and legs, are meant to. In subhuman life, the living entities are not conscious of their constitutional position, but in the human form of life, they are supposed to know this through the system of Varna. They are not engaged in the service. So it's in subhuman life. That means he may be in human body, but his consciousness is not human. It is lower. Human life means that he is very developed consciousness. What is the developed consciousness? That he knows his constitutional position. That he is the subordinate and he has to serve Krishna. So subhuman life means lower consciousness than human life. One who is not in his constitutional position. Okay. Good. Manoram has not joined today also. He could go to the office. I spoke to him. Anyway. Anything else? Okay, then we close for today. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.